Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at the 2026 US Senate elections and we're taking a look at some new polls that came out in several of the top key Senate races for 2026 by Fox News, and it shows a really interesting finding of the Democrats based on these polls are in a really strong position to do very well in the 2026 Senate elections. So let's jump into it. The Senate map for 2026, there's currently 35 Senate seats up for grabs, with 33 the usual number that there is in this cycle, plus 2 special elections in the states of Ohio and Florida, both for J.D. Vance's and Marco Rubio's former Senate seats. So now, in this election cycle, Democrats start out with 34, Republicans start out at 31. For the Republicans, they have to get to 50 to hold the majority, with the vice president breaking the tie. Democrats to flip the Senate need to get to 51. Now, a lot of these seats, we already know how they're going to go, and these are the ones that are listed as safe, meaning 15% margin of victory or more for the candidate or the party that's going to win. So, for instance, Oregon, Colorado, and New Mexico are all going to be over 15-point Democratic wins. No surprise here. Illinois, I would put in this category, as well as Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. All are going to be safe wins for the Democrats, and that gets the Democrats already up to 43 Senate seats. Now, the Republicans have a good number of these seats as well. Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana in all likelihood will be over 15 points, but that one could potentially narrow up. But Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia are all going to go safe for the Republicans without really much of a doubt. This gets the Republicans up to 41. Now, there are a good number of Senate seats as well that are in between the range of 5 to 15%, which would be called the likely rating for our ratings here, but they're probably going to be closer to that 15 point than to the 5 point. Here, you can throw in the Montana Senate race with Kurt Alme versus Seth Bodnar and Alani Bankhead. That one goes as likely are. Mississippi with Cindy Hyde-Smith will likely fall in this category as well. South Carolina, whether it's Darlene Graham or Ralph Norman, either way, should be over a 10-point margin of victory in that one. I would put South Carolina in that. Florida, for now, Florida is interesting because it could be competitive. It could not be competitive. I think right around that 10-point margin of victory is where it's going to be right now. So Florida, I'd put that as likely Republican as well. That puts the Republicans up at 45, Democrats still at 43. Now, the Democrats do have some likely Democratic seats as well. For a while, the only seat has been the state of Minnesota, which I think will probably be around that 6 to 10 point margin of victory as well. But we're starting to see Jon Ossoff really consolidate a lot of support in the state of Georgia in the last few weeks. It's possible that it could get even tighter. So the state of Georgia, the Senate race does not have a new Fox News poll. It does have one from back towards the end of June, which showed Ossoff up about 13 points over Mike Collins. And then a Fabrizio Ward and Impact Research poll from the middle of July shows Ossoff over Collins by about 9 points. So we're actually going to put Georgia into the likely Democratic category to start here. And now we'll start talking about some of the Senate races that do have polls from Fox News. The first one that we know for sure has a Fox News poll is the Senate race in North Carolina. This is Michael Whatley versus Roy Cooper in this general election matchup. A lot of the rankings, or pretty much all of them, are favored for Roy Cooper. And Fox News' new poll, Beacon Research Shaw, the Democratic side of things, Beacon Research, and Shaw & Co. Research, the Republican side, from July 23rd to 27th. This is the main poll that we're looking at in the video today. Shows Cooper at 53%, Whatley at 44%, which is about a 9-point lead for the Democrats. That would also put North Carolina, like Georgia, in the likely Democratic category. And this is the first flip on the Senate map from red to blue on the 2026 map in the state of North Carolina. So that is a very, very significant one. Next, we'll go to the Senate race in the state of Maine. Maine's definitely one of the more talked about Senate races between Susan Collins and Troy Jackson after Troy Jackson stepped in, won the nomination in replacing Graham Plattner. For the general election, this one's also very close, more toss-up rankings than North Carolina, but definitely a few lean and tilt Democrats in their directions here. For the polling, that poll from August 6th through 10th, so this one's even more recent, just a few days ago, from Fox News, from Beacon Research and Shaw & Co. Research here, shows a very tight race. Jackson at 48%, Collins at 46%, 1% other, 5% of the vote undecided. That's more important in Maine than a lot of other states, because in Maine you have to break 50% of the vote or ranked choice voting goes into effect. And then obviously the ranked choice voting process plays out, and we'll have to wait and see who ends up winning that. But Jackson starts out with a 2-point lead in this race. So based on the Fox News poll, Maine would actually go in the lean Democratic category. Now we have the state of Ohio, or I do believe Ohio has been polled. I don't believe New Hampshire has been polled yet in that Senate race, but Ohio, I do believe, have, between Republican appointed incumbent John Husted and Sherrod Brown, the former Democratic senator who is challenging him. And you just see here almost toss up across the board here in a lot of these rankings. Race to White House does have it lean Democrat. Inside Elections has it tilt Republican, but most of the rankings have it as a toss-up. That same August 6th through 10th poll from Fox News, Beacon Research, Shaw & Co. shows Brown at 53%, Husted at 45%, with 2% of the vote undecided. So for a Senate race that's gone back and forth between being one that I would say a lot still expect that John Husted would win, Sherrod Brown is definitely leading by a lot in this poll, and he's now getting about 49% in the polling averages. So we'll see if things change over the next few months. But right now, Sherrod Brown seems to have a narrow lead in the Senate race in Ohio. But based on those numbers, that 8-point lead, Ohio would go into the likely Democratic category as well. So just the first few races that we've seen, Ohio likely Democrat, North Carolina likely Democrat, and Georgia likely Democrat, and Maine lean Democrat. You're already looking at 3 Democratic flips here on the Senate map where they're at 53 Republicans are at 53, Democrats are at 47. Democrats so far, without doing the rest of the states here, are already at 48 Senate seats. Now we can go to the state of Michigan, where Michigan's going to be talked about a lot into the general election. This is one of the few bright spots on the map for the Republicans that Republicans are hoping to flip. Abdul Al-Sayed won the Democratic primary. Mike Rogers won the Republican primary. Predictions are mostly toss-up, though a few are lean Democrat, including Fox News, who has it listed as lean Democrat on their website. Right now, Mike Rogers is leading in the polling averages, but he is leading 46.6 to 44.6, which still roughly about 9% of voters undecided. So that is a pretty big number of undecided voters right now, but Rogers does have the lead in the Fox News poll. Actually, Mike Rogers is leading 51 to 47, so it's interesting. Their prediction site has it lean Democrat. Their poll currently has it as a lean Republican. So in this poll, we can put Michigan as a lean Republican state. This would be a flip for the Republicans. So Democrats were up 3. Now they're up 2 with the Republicans winning Michigan in this scenario, which is definitely big for them, as that may potentially keep them from losing the Senate, but we'll have to wait and see as we get into 2 more Senate races that I know for sure have polls in them. Now we got to talk about the state of Texas, where I don't know if it's going to be the most competitive, but it's probably the most talked about Senate race. Ken Paxton versus James Talarico. Predictions for the general election: mix of toss-up, lean Republican, tilt Democrat, lean Democrat, and really consensus is kind of all over the place here. The poll from late July from Fox News shows that 51 for Talarico, 48 for Ken Paxton, a 3-point lead, a lean Democratic lead. The polling averages show Talarico up overall 1.6, 47 to 45.6 as of right now. So Texas, based on these numbers, would actually flip blue and be a tilt Democratic win, which is very significant there. Next, we can go to the state of Alaska. Alaska, I do believe, has a poll done between Mary Peltola and Dan Sullivan, who's expected to be obviously both in the general election once the primaries play out. By the time you're seeing this video, the primaries are already over. I'm recording it just a few days before, but we know how it's going to play out. We know both of them will advance to the general election. Super tight on the polling right now. Actually, I'm mistaken. Fox News has not done a poll in this race here, but most recent poll from Alaska Survey Research shows it 51-49, a 2-point lead by Peltola. New York Times Standing University shows Sullivan up 47-45. So a very, very tight race right now. I guess we can, we'll come back to that one in just a moment here. That might be all of the Fox News polls, actually, now I think about it. Democrats are at 49, Republicans are at 46. There may be an Iowa one, but I'm not totally sure if there is. I think there is, but we'll just double check here between Ashley Hinton and Josh Turek. See if there's been an Iowa poll. So it was back in June, so there was one back in June, but for July and August, there's not been an Iowa poll yet. But in that one, they did show that Josh Turek was leading over Ashley Hinton 50 to 46, a 4-point Democratic lead there, though Hinton is up by 1 point across the polling averages here. So right now, just based on the polls that we know have come out from Fox News in the last month or so, Democrats get up to 49 Senate seats, Republicans are at 46. And we still haven't gone over New Hampshire, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, or Alaska yet. Let's just let's go from here, and let's say based on those polls showing the averages up for Peltola, let's say Alaska narrowly goes to Mary Peltola. We can look now also Iowa. Hinton is barely leading in the polling averages here. For the sake of argument, let's just say Iowa stays narrowly in the Republican side. Now we can go to the state of New Hampshire, see what's going on there between Chris Pappas and the Republican primary winner, which will likely be former U.S. Senator John Sununu. And we can see the polling here where Pappas is leading over Scott Brown by 12 points. Pappas is leading over Sununu by about 4.6. Again, there's been no Fox News poll in this one, but for the sake of argument, we'll just put it as lean Democrat, which is what the polling averages currently show here. And then we'll go through Nebraska and Kansas. I'm almost certain there's been no polling here in Kansas from Fox News, but the polling as a whole show a very close race from Democratic internal polls. Normally, I'd just skew the numbers to be more favorable for the Republicans on that because they're all internal Democratic polls, but we'll just put it lean Republican for now for the sake of argument. And then going to Nebraska, Dan Osborne versus Pete Ricketts here. We'll look at the polling. Likely the lean Republican rankings here. The polling does show Osborne up about 1.1%, though again, from internal polls here. Again, we'll just split the difference and say it goes tilt Republican for now. So based on the polls that we have gotten out of Fox News, out of Georgia, out of North Carolina, out of Maine, out of Ohio, and out of Texas, Democrats are at 51 Senate seats, Republicans are at 49, and that also gives the Democrats the Senate race in the state of Alaska as well, while giving the Republicans the Senate races in Nebraska, in Iowa, in Michigan, in Kansas as well. Based on the newest round of polls from Fox News, Democrats are at 51, so the Democrats would flip the Senate in 2026 if they can actually pull this off, which is honestly pretty crazy to think about from even a few months ago, where heading into, say, 2026, it looked more like a map of Democrats were looking to flip North Carolina and Georgia, North Carolina and Maine, those are always kind of the foregone flip possibilities for the Democrats. Ohio could have been a flip, but it probably was going to stay red. Iowa wasn't really too much in the conversation of being a flip. Texas, even though Ken Paxton's a very embattled candidate, still looked like John Cornyn could pull out the primary, so the Republicans may not be in too much of a big problem losing there. But based on their newest rounds of polling, Fox News has the Democrats essentially at 51 Senate seats, Republicans at 49, and it's really interesting here. Now, you can play with some of the margins on this map here now that we know it's 51-49. You can make Kansas maybe more red. You could even put Nebraska or Iowa as more red. But Democrats getting to 51 and getting that majority back from the Republicans would be very huge, especially for 2026 on a Senate map that really is not super advantageous for the Democrats. I mean, when you think about the Senate seats Democrats have to flip, well, first of all, they have to hold Senate races in Georgia, which Trump won in 2024. They have to hold a Senate race in New Hampshire, which Kamala Harris did win, but she didn't win by a massive amount. Then they have to flip a Senate seat in North Carolina, which Trump won all three times in 2020, 2016, and 2024. Maine is a Democratic state that voted for Kamala Harris, but Susan Collins won in 2020 before that. But then Democrats have to flip states like Ohio, like Texas, like Alaska. They were all 10-point margin of victories or more for Trump in 2024. So this isn't a very advantageous map for the Democrats in 2026, yet based on their current polling rankings from Fox, the Democrats would probably be forecasted to win about 51 Senate seats, which is, again, pretty remarkable right now. Obviously, we're in August of 2026. We're not going to know until Election Day how this all officially ends up. But, yeah, they have the Democrats at 51, Republicans are at 49, and that's giving Republicans the state of Michigan, where they have Rogers up 51-47. And things close in the final few months here, and the Democrats can pull out a victory here. Democrats could even get up to 52-48 if that poll ends up being either wrong or new polls show it, with Abdul-Sayed taking the lead here. Democrats could get up to 52-48, and that's going to play an important role in the upcoming Senate map as well in 2028, which is going to be the 2022 Senate map. Plus, I do believe, Ohio's already there and Florida's already there, so that won't be changed, but it'll be the 2022 Senate map. And you look at this, there were some very close Democratic wins in places like Nevada and Arizona and Georgia and Pennsylvania that Republicans are going to try and target, no doubt. But there's also two very close Republican incumbents in North Carolina and Ted Budd and Ron Johnson, especially in Wisconsin. Johnson only won by 1 point in a Biden midterm in 2022. If Johnson even runs again, he may decide not to run again. This is going to be 100% a top target for Democrats in 2028. And then North Carolina, Ted Budd, if the incumbent runs for re-election, I think he'll probably start with a slight advantage on the state here. But if Roy Cooper wins and maybe Democratic governor of the state now, the new governor of the state, I think it's Josh Stein, decides to run against him, kind of like Roy Cooper, that'd be a popular incumbent running against a Republican in the Senate race, it could end up being a very close race. Democrats may be able to win there. If they can flip those 2 seats while holding everything else, that could put the Democrats up to 54 Senate seats after 2028. And then depending on how the presidential election goes, if the Democrats win in 2028, 54 to 46 senators plus the presidency, probably with the House as well. Democrats could definitely have a very big majority there to go out and do whatever their agenda they want to do in 2028, obviously depending on who the president is and what they want to get done. But the Senate map for 2028 is definitely important. The 2026 one, what was looking like Republicans were probably going to hold the Senate, Democrats could set themselves up very, very strongly for the next few years if the Democrats can pull off this map here, even with Michigan currently being a lean Republican state. On the Fox News poll, Democrats getting 51 Senate seats in 2026 would be a massive, massive victory for the Democrats if they could pull that off. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, make sure to hit a like and leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought of this video and other videos you'd like to see me do in the future going forward. But I hope you really did enjoy. And again, please hit like and subscribe if you did. It really helps my channel and myself out, and YouTube push my video to more people who may be interested to watch it like yourself. For now, though, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, I really appreciate it if you could hit like and hit subscribe as well. It would really help me and my channel out a whole lot if you could do that for me. You can see in the circle in the top left the subscribe here button to subscribe to the channel. On the right, there are going to be 2 video pop-ups for you. My latest video will be on the top, and a recommended playlist by myself will be on the bottom as well. In the bottom left of the screen, you'll see my channel name, Anthony's Election Center, which you are currently watching. On my Facebook, Anthony.ElectionCenter is also there. And if you want to reach out to me on email, anthpredicts@gmail.com is my email. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. If you want to look for any of these, obviously in more time, please feel free. But for now, though, that is it. I really thank you all for watching and hope to see you in a future video.